Okay, yeah, good. Fine. So, how do you find IAM? You can go to your AWS Management Console, right? So there won't be many questions, with respect to security or IAM or something, but basic understanding of the same is good, right? So last time we were, looking for IAM. You can just search here IAM, right? Or you can just see here under security, identity, and compliance.
Yeah.
Okay. So go to IAM, and there you have option for creating groups, right? You have option for creating users and roles, right? And some policies, right? So I think you are familiar with the group and user creation, correct? Last time we had done. Anybody remembers?
Yes,
Urvashi,
Harish.
remember? Okay. Okay. So you can create group, you can create user, right? And we discussed about role as well. Can you recall how role is useful? Because if you use username and password, so that
We can authorize different users for different roles.
Correct. Even you can delegate permission to resources, AWS resources.
Yeah.
You see one role, AWS service role for access analyzer. So this has done something. Today, no, it has accessed. I have not accessed. First time I am logging in today. But it has, I had authorized the access analyzer to check how much expenses I may be incurring. So some kind of service analyzer, it has checked resources, IAM related and KMS related something. So the role would be doing things on behalf of me. And policy is something which you can attach, right? So without policy, user may not have the right permission, right? So you can assign some policy, and the policies can be of different types. You see customer managed policy. Last time I had deleted multiple customer managed policies. So some AWS managed, say about 677 policies are there, right? So you can simply choose that. So you see so many policies are there. So if you want to assign a particular policy, so you can choose, say, like related to what you want to give, say like for administration or something you want to give. Administration related something, AWS Cloud9 administrator, some kind of policy. Or you can check for some policy related to maybe IAM, say like IAM full access policy, provides full access to IAM via the AWS Management Console. So these policies are actually written in JSON, right? We discussed about JSON, right? So this will determine the authorization. Last class we were discussing about authentication and authorization, right? So authentication is just to identify who is the user who is trying to log in. So once you logged in, that's it. Authentication is done. Now comes the permission. What all things you can do once you log into the system? What all things you can do? So last time we were seeing we had given some, we had not given any delete permission to a user to delete bucket or something. So that time the user was not able to delete it. However, the user was able to create a bucket or put something in the bucket. So it depends what kind of, or you can, I think I had given only read only. So user could see the bucket and see the object. So what kind of policy you are giving? So it's about that, right? So there are AWS managed one, that is AWS is fully managing it, and you can create your own, that would be called as customer managed policy. Okay, so at a later stage when time permits, maybe I can explain you more about it. Maybe we can discuss in detail. So as of now, you please understand that policy is about determining the permission, right? It's related to authorization, right? So you can also try when you get a chance to create some policy, right? And or to attach some policy, right? So that is something we can do once, if time permits, maybe we can try this one. We can do, right? So there is a concept of inline policy also. So you just first thing is to give some permission, and then you can withdraw some permission. Say like you can give full access, right, to a user, and then you can withdraw some kind of delete permission. Right? So that way, you can make sure that say like whatever use that is AWS defined policy are there, right? So out of which, say like you can give one full access or something. Maybe you can give something related to S3, some policy you can look for. So you can just here you see S3 read-only policy, full access. So you can give full access, and then you can say no, you cannot delete this particular bucket, right? Or so that is something related to inline policy, right? So anything specific for a particular user will get option for inline policy. Okay. So maybe we can do that quickly. I'll just give you a demo. You just please pay attention, right? So I think should be okay. I'll just give you a demo, right? You can just take a look. Should that be fine, or you want hands-on?
That's okay, Harish. I mean,
That's okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So say like you just create a group. You just create a group like admins group, right? So you can say next step, and here you see the option for attaching policy, right? So here you can directly attach a policy, or you can simply, if you don't want to attach as of now, you can simply say next step, and you simply say create group. Group has been created. It's as simple as that, creation of group, right? But nothing is there, no policy is there, no permission is there, nothing is there. Here you see this inline policy I was talking about, right? So I'll just explain about that also. You see user, you click on add user, just give some username, say like admin1, right? And let me just move this one, troubling me. Okay, so here you just say admin1, and access type, you remember last time we had done this AWS management console access auto-generated password or some kind of custom password. So maybe I can give some password like okay, I just kept given some password. Required password reset. No, I don't want password reset. I say next permission, and I don't save it. Now you see add user to group, right? So you have option to add the user to the group. So we had created a group, so maybe we can attach that user to the same group, right? So you can simply choose admins, and you can define some particular tag. So tag you can give like some name, and you can say like say admin1, and you can review it. So now this user is part of admins group, and this is a tag. Now you simply say create user, right? And users with AWS Management Console access can sign in at this one. So I'll just take this. Okay. And I'll just go to this browser and just go to this. Okay, so this already that account number came. Username was 1. Password. And here you go. See, the user is able to log in, right? But what can user do? User can learn to build. User can try to launch a virtual machine or something. Not sure if user will be allowed to do. Oh, user is getting some option here. So user can go and do something. Oh, error occurred describing your selected AI something. Right? Choose some red hat or something. No. So you can see here, user is not having any authorization. So authentication has passed, but user cannot see anything here. You see, nothing is there. So that's what. Now, for that, what you need to give some permission, right? You need to give some permission to the user. So you can come here. You can go to IAM. You can come here. You can just see the user. Maybe group could have done something. So we can select this group. We can go here. You just see delete group, edit group name, remove something. Right? Nothing is there. You go to policy. So you have create policy or policy actions. See, you have some option, right? So just search for some, say like S3 full access or something. S3 full access is there, right? So you can simply see this policy uses. You can see, here you see policy version, access advisor. See policy uses, right? Here you have options like attach. You see the option? You can attach, right? So initially we did not attach, right? Later you can attach, multiple policies, correct? Option to attach. Whom do you want to attach? You want to attach to the group. You want to attach to the particular user. So policy you just see here. You can say like system. You see system administrator. Some policy is there, right? Correct. You can choose. You can make somebody grants full access permission necessary for resources required for. Right? You can give this policy. This policy you can attach instead of that S3. You can attach this one. Whatever you wish, you can attach. This one also you can attach. That one also you can attach. Right? So select full access permission only. We will attach. Okay. So say like attach, and you attach to the group. So what will happen if I attach to the group? Then that permission will be that permission.
Yeah.
Correct. Now it will go to all the users, right?
Yeah.
Users in the group, yes.
Okay. So just attach a policy. What does it say? Policy ARN is this, right? And now user groups. See here, user one inline policy node there, creation time, something in there. Now let's go there where we had created that. Just try to refresh. Okay, go to that. S3 permission we have given. S3 permission we have given. You just see one bucket or something is there. Full access we had given, right? So this bucket I'll select. Let's say delete. It's asking for bucket at 6. And I'll just give that bucket at 6 here and confirm. Right, so this bucket has been deleted. Last time I had given read-only access and the user was not able to delete anything. This time I have given full access and the user is able to delete the bucket. Correct? Now if you want that user to do something, here you have that user, right? So this user is having my account, my billing, my security credentials. So this user, see some options are there. My security. Now you see, own security credential, this user is not able to do something. User cannot assign MFA device, user cannot create access keys. So that's not fair, right? So this user should have some permission related to that. Okay, so we can come here, we can just go to this user, right? And we can try to give some permission or something, right? So select for this admin one. See, group is this, tag is this, security credential is here. So I can do something. If I wish, I can do something, right? I can upload SSH public key. I can create access key for that user because I have the authority, right? So maybe we can try to give some other, attach some other policy. So maybe something related to IAM policy. So maybe if I give IAM full access, right? So policy uses, right? So here you just say like attach admin one, and you attach the policy. Now after assigning this policy, this permission, here it shows, right? Full access. Now I go to the user and you just see, just refresh. Just refresh. Now you see those warnings have gone, right?
Yeah.
See for this user. Correct? Now this user can change its password. See? That's fair, right? That you just should have the permission to change it, right? Or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So now you have given the permission to the user. However, now what happens? This user can go to group. He can select that group, right? And he can see here, he can say that delete group. He can do or not?
Yes, he can do maybe because
He
has
got full access, right, for IAM?
Yeah, correct.
So now he can do a lot of things, right? He got full access for other things also, right? So do you think that is fair? Not fair, right? So we should not take away some access, right? We should take away some access. So how we can do that? We can go to that user. We have that admin, right? This user has some kind of full access. Some boundary, we can set some boundary here. Add inline policy, we can add some inline policy. See, we were talking about JSON, right? You see, JSON statement is there, right? So whatever policy we are creating, we can change to make it little bit of inline. So inline means you can take away some policy. Say like I'll just show to you. Go to group, group actions, nothing here. Go here. Look at the permission. Here also you have option. So you have multiple options, right? That time, how did we do? We went to policy, right? How did we attach policy to this group? We went through policy tab, right? Now, what we did now, we just came to group. We just clicked on group and then we went to permission of it. Here also you have option, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So here you see the option of inline policy also.
Policies.
There is no inline policy set, correct?
Hmm.
So we had given S3 full access and that user had deleted the bucket, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, what we could do here is can simply go here, we can try to create inline policy, right? So you see policy generator is there. Policy generator, you just click on select, you just try to deny. Full access we have given, but delete bucket we don't want to give. But create a bucket and all other things, everything, let him enjoy. But delete bucket I don't want to. Now just choose which kind of service you want to restrict. So it should be S3 somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, here it is. S3. Now actions. What kind of actions?
Delete bucket.
bucket.
Okay, perfect. Say delete bucket. On which resource you want to give that? Tell me. So as of now, what I say, let me give asterisk. So that means don't allow don't allow to delete anything. So that is ARN. So as of now, I don't have any bucket there. Otherwise, I could have given any ARN also. And I can give some condition also. You see, here you have conditions. This is optional. You can just give some condition where something date greater than this or some other based on some tag, right? So you have certain conditions that you can choose. String is equal to something. So those are the conditions. This is optional. So if you wish, you can give some condition where you can specify some key, some value, and you can add the condition that any bucket which name starts with something else, right? So those kind of things you should not be able to delete. So deny, and like this. Then you just say add statement. See, this statement has been added. Then you just say next. You see the JSON.
JSON.
So this is deny, delete bucket. Deny, delete bucket policy, right? So this is deny, delete bucket policy. You see the version. You see some statement is there, right? So what is this version? Date, right? Date based version. This is date based version. So this policy was published in say like this particular date. So version they would do based on some date or something. So whatever date is there, so like that they have mentioned. Now this is statement. So what is the statement? It starts with this square bracket thing, right? So that there can be multiple statements here, right? You have some SID, right? And then you have effect. You see what is the effect? You have chosen deny, right? Because already this person has full permission on S3, right? Right. So what is the purpose? Now the purpose to deny what?
User to delete the bucket.
Correct. So we allowed everything. Now we are denying it. So whatever allow or deny is there, right? So deny will take the preference. So whatever is denied, that will be totally denied. Now you just have this delete and resource we gave asterisk, right? You see asterisk here. If we could have given some condition, so condition would have come here below after this resource thing here, condition would have come. Right, so this resource would have been closed right? And after that, another tab would appear. Like this. No, if you practice, it is really easy, and you can learn it. You can simply try to go to overview of policy something. JSON, you just look for JSON, you can just learn. This will be easy. So always know this version statement, some double quote, some no, this square bracket, this braces, some comma at the end. Whenever if you it's the end.
I guess we would have hands-on, so it would have been better. No? And that's okay.
I couldn't hear anything.
No, that's okay. I was saying it.
Okay.
I was
Okay. So this resource, a single or list of resources on which no we can perform some action. So say like apply policy. So you see apply policy now, full access, and then you just see inline policy. So you understood what is inline policy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So inline policy means you can apply, no, attached. How you just reply to email inline, right? Inline, somebody asks some 5 questions, so simply you just respond inline and mention that okay, I have responded to your questions inline. So inline means within that.
Within that.
Yeah. So whatever is the policy, this inline policy is attached to that policy and changes the meaning in some way. So this is a very good idea to use the existing policy provided by Amazon and then attach some inline policy to it for some kind of restrictions, right? Or you can use that generator we used, or you can also use handwritten policies, or you can just generate using generator and then you can try to modify that policy because syntax would be uniform, right?
Okay.
So now that we have attached it, shall we go and check? Can anybody guide me how to go and check? Where should I go? I go here. What should I do? I should try with the. No, this is mine. I have to go.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
Okay. So here, what should I try? I should try for S3, right?
S3.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I go to S3 and you see nothing is there. So I just create a bucket.
Create a bucket.
Test. I just say next.
No.
So it already exists.
Yeah.
So I will say admin1 hyphen. This will not exist, I'm very sure. See, now whatever options, let it be. I'm going to say next, create bucket. So the bucket is created, right?
Mm.
And now you select the bucket, delete the bucket, and admin bucket 1, and you say confirm. See, one error has occurred here. So the user is able to create the bucket, but he's not able to delete also.
Yeah.
Bucket view details access has been denied.
Denied.
So this is what is the benefit of using the inline policy, right? So now you should be able to attach policy, create inline policy, connect to it, right? Right?
Yes.
So let me explain what we have done. Very simple way. 1 second. Let me explain here. So what happens is there is an API request. Okay. So API request comes. So how it can come? Say like through console access is there, right? AWS console or CLI or some kind of SDK, or from places, some API request will be coming to AWS, right? Now, whatever requests are coming, right, to the policy, right? So what it will do, it will just merge all statements. So you saw some statement we had written, right? So merge all statements from all policies, each policy attached to the entity. So by entity, what do I mean? Let it be user or group or whatsoever, right? Because one time we attach to group, one time we attach to user. So merge all statements from each policy, whatever policy is relevant for that particular user, right, or group. So just merge all the policy statements from each of the policy, right? And after merging, right, you need to check. They will check. So what they will check? Does policy explicitly deny? Okay, so it is like flow chart. So does policy explicitly deny? It can be yes or no. Say like yes, then whatever request has come for the resource, that will be denied. Okay. Okay. So if policy is denying explicitly, so it should deny. That's it. Now, if it is not denying, so you saw first thing is to check, right? If it is denied explicitly, no, so it will be denied. Now there should be explicit allow. Explicitly allow. Okay. No explicit allow is there. Then what will happen? Hello.
Okay, in that case also it will deny the request.
Yeah, explicitly it is not allowed. That's it. Deny.
Deny the request.
So whatever statements are there, whatever things are there, whatever request is coming for a resource, right? Now it will go and check the policy. The policy, whatever policies are there, everything will be merge, allow, deny, this, that, everything. Now from group, from user. Now does policy explicitly deny? Yes. It's denying, then definitely it will be a deny. It's not denying explicitly. Is it explicitly allowing? No. Deny only. Now, what is the condition here now? So, yes, if explicitly allow is there, then only allow the request. Making sense? Correct?
Yeah.
So this is how the evaluation of the policy happens. So this is policy evaluation logic. Okay, making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So what we were doing? Now here this works. Okay. So today's session little bit no different, right? So today first break we'll be taking at after
11.
1.5 hours of session, right?
Yeah.
At 11.
Okay, perfect. So so now you're familiar with this IAM thing, so please go through it. Access key and all you have done earlier, right? So I will not go through it again because we have a lot of bigger concepts related to networking and database are there. So there are four core components which will be very important for examination, right? So that is like your compute and your network, your storage, and the database part. So these are quite important things. So we have a lot of important things remaining, right? So what we will do, we'll move to next topic. So what is that? So whatever small or big thing, whatever is left, so I'll be covering with related to some other topic, right? And hands-on we'll probably tomorrow we'll do some hands-on. So load balancing, this is very important concept, load balancing, auto scaling and DNS, right? So very important concept. So ELB, type of ELB classic, this we can see now. Auto scaling, vertical and horizontal scaling. So you're familiar with what is vertical and horizontal scaling, right? So life cycle of auto scaling. Okay, we can see, look at this. So let me share the whiteboard better than this, I think. Whiteboard. Okay, so anybody heard about ELB earlier? ELB is elastic load balancer. This is elastic load balancer. Load balancer you must have heard, right?
Yeah.
So something which balances the load, right? So you have multiple instances, and like one instance might have more load, another may not have the all the traffic may be going to one instance, and another instance may be idle. So that's not a good condition. Utilization will be very biased there. So whatever incoming traffic is coming, right? If you want to distribute the load, right, across number of EC2 instances, right? So this can be useful, right? This is just the same thing, just because it's managed and it's elastic in nature. That's why they are telling elastic load balancer, right? So what do you think should be the scope of this device? Scope means for availability zone or based on region or global, something like that. So it's a regional device. It's a regional device. Okay. So it's regional. So what is the benefit? We can use multiple availability zones within that particular region. Okay. So you have one region. In that you have select 3 availability zones. So you can keep one EC2 instance in one availability zone and one in another. So you have select 3. So you can keep in 3 places. Okay. So you have 3 instances in different availability zones, right? And you are using one ELB on top of it. Okay. Making sense? So you have ELB traffic coming here, and you have EC2, another EC2. This is in select 2A, this is in 2B, this is in 2C, US is something. So now here is the load balancer. So whatever is the request, whatever is the traffic coming here, right? So it will be distributed. So like you have internet. Now from internet, traffic is coming to ELB, and this is this load balancer is taking care of that, no,
Distributing the load.
distributing the request to each available region, right? So this is beneficial, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll see more in more detail. Okay, just okay. So it's the best part is it's fully managed. Understand what is fully managed?
Yeah,
Fully managed by whom?
Amazon.
Yeah. So as it is fully managed, it comes with added advantage. It's secure. Security is taken care by whom? Amazon. It's resilient. What do you mean by resilient? Anybody? Resilient means you might have heard about resilient storage or something like that. Resilient storage, you heard that term?
No.
So whatever tough condition comes, right?
Hmm.
It can handle. It can handle the tough situation, and it can, in case of some issue or something, it can recover as well. Right? So that is resilient. Resilient means cannot be broken easily. Okay. So it's tough. It's strong. Now, scalable. Right? Scalable, you understand, right?
Yeah.
What is the scalability? Who can tell?
Provisioning and deprovisioning of the resources.
Mhm.
In this case, we can maximize or minimize the capacity of ELP maybe. Not sure.
Okay. Anybody wants to try? Anybody else?
Measurable?
Yeah, but what is the exact meaning? Like how it is relevant here? Because scalability we have been discussing. So these are some important terms, right?
Yeah, we were able to scale, upscale, downscale, and like that.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So we were discussing about elasticity also, right?
Yeah, elasticity.
So what is
EBS.
elasticity and what is scalability?
Scalability is we'll be able to measure the what is it? I mean, it is we can scale up, we can scale down. Elasticity is like there is no up and down. It will be like elastic. It will be elastic like that, something like that. I'm not able to put in words.
So if something is elastic, right,
Like
it
we
can
can change in elasticity.
Elastic is the how you can accommodate more instances or something like that.
okay.
Yeah. I mean the scaling we can do in elasticity because that's the thing we can scale. Like we were doing scale up, scale down in EBS only.
Yeah. So we discussed about scalability and we also discussed about what do you call two
Elasticity.
terms, right?
Elastic.
about elasticity, scalability, high availability, all those things we discussed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here scalable means no, there should not be any no. It's usually scaling up kind of thing, like that capability is there, right? So elastic is something like you can it can go up and it can go down also, right? So when we talk about the scalability, so it's like mostly we talk about increasing the capacity, right?
Okay.
Understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll just share some definitions related to scalability and availability and what is that, elasticity and fault tolerance, etc. Because there are certain terms which you may have to differentiate and remember. So here we talk about kind of with the positive things without any degradation of the performance. We can scale it. So it's correct. One term, measurable, you told. So all those terms are there. So just try to relate to it. That's it. Self-healing.
Harish, here ELB is scalable. How is it? I didn't understand that. fully.
It's like based on the requirement. Say like if there is any load, say like because it's not managed by us, right?
Okay, okay.
Right? So it's managed by Amazon, correct? So say like whatever load comes, it's not necessary that one particular ELB would be able to manage it, right? If load is too much, so one ELB may not be able to manage it properly, right? So for us,
Okay.
it will look like one device. Say like I just drew some diagram there. You might have seen one ELB I have created, and then you have 3 EC2 instances connected to it, right? However, internally, that's not the scene. It's internally, it's like very long story. So it will be like multiple nodes may be there. Lot of redundancy will be there. So it's not one node. For us, it will look like one node only. Simply we can use it. Okay, I have created my ELB, I have attached it to my instances, and it is working, right? However, internally, Amazon will have lot of arrangement there, right? So it's scalable means like when there is too much of load, right? So that time it will increase the capacity. It will just more than 1, 2, 3, as many are needed. So that much arrangement will be made by the Amazon. Got it?
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I thought like it is like a modulator. We can increase in that only.
No, we don't have to do anything. Automatically,
Okay.
it will be, it will scale up. Now, there is something like self-healing, right? Self-healing is again, same meaning as the word, is there, right? So just, it can heal itself, right? So if any problem is there, whatever is there, so it can fix it. Otherwise, it will be replaced by another node. So you don't have to worry about it. Right? So those kind of benefits comes with this fully managed options. Right? So it's also supporting the health check, right? Health check. Health check support, right? So what this load balancer will do, it will regularly make connection with whatever EC2 instances are underlying, right? And it will ensure that the instances are healthy. There is no problem or something, and the instances are capable of handling the requests, right? So that kind of health check it can do. Understood? You have ELB, right? And you have EC2 instances. Now it will be checking. This has some problem or it's working fine. If this has some problem, right? So no request will be sent here. Automatically request will be routed somewhere else. Getting it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the help of another component that we'll be discussing, we can take care of this unhealthy instance. Okay. So whenever this instance is reported as unhealthy, no request will be sent by the ELB. So that kind of health check is supported by ELB. So far it's good, right?
Yeah, Harish.
Okay. Okay, so now there is, we discussed like one machine has gone down or something, right? So what happens in that case, there will be, no, there is a concept of ELB linking with auto scaling. So what I can say is integrate with auto scaling. So we'll be discussing about auto scaling soon, right? So what auto scaling does is it can, no, based on the demand or based on the situation, right? It can terminate one instance, it can create a new instance, it can handle the load. So one day I think Ranjita was asking, right? So is it possible to create instances automatically, right? Whenever there is a need, because we were doing some kind of vertical scaling for our EC2 instance, right? So that time she was asking. So now this ELB can be integrated with auto scaling, right? So say like that load balancer determined that the node has gone down, right? So we had ELB and we have say like EC2, right? So say like it determined that this is bad. Okay. So what it will do, it will inform the auto scaling. It will inform the auto scaling, right? That one particular node in say like 2A zone, right, is not working properly. So what auto scaling will do? It will terminate that node only. Okay, completely it will terminate, and then it will create a new node. And once this ELB finds this, it will start sending the traffic to the new instance. Making sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
ELB will directly connect to all EC2 instances, or we need to give any like command or something to get connected to any EC2 instance?
Yeah,
ELB.
we have to define it. We have to know.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we have to define it, so that I will discuss. Okay. Yeah. So there are three types of ELBs. Three main types. Okay. So one is called classic ELB. Second one we can say like ALB we call it. So that is application. Now I can say application load balancer. Okay. So application load balancer, that is actually ALB. Okay. So this classic LB, actually classic LB is the first one. Like initially it came around 2009 or something. So that time onwards this is there. So later the application and network LB, so all those things came, but this is the original one, right? So when you simply say ELB, no, mostly we don't say CLB or something. So ELB means classic ELB only we refer to, right? But there is another one which is called application LB, ALB. If you find term like ALB, then you understand it is talking about application LB. There is something like network LB. Okay. So how we do it, as you asked, so that we'll see. Okay. So say like we have internet and we begin by creating the ELB. Okay. Okay. So first we begin by creating the ELB. So how would ELB listen? So we have to define something, correct? From internet, how it will start listening automatically. So we have to define the listener port. Right? So we define some listener port like ATR 443. Okay, so we define some port on which this ELB would be listening. Now, whatever instances we want there, right? So we register it. Register instances, right? Now, when we register it, right, so there should be some port on which this application should be listening to. So we need to define that as well, right? So we can mention that forward port, right? We can mention whatever, no forward port, usually know what I would do. Example can be say like 808085. Okay. Now application should be listening to this particular port. So I have registered the instances to ELB, right, and defined the forward port. And here what we did, we defined the what listener port. So from internet, whatever requests are coming to ELB, now instances have been registered to that ELB. There is a forward port on which applications should be listening, that we have defined, say like for example 8080. It can be different as well, right? Right. So now this ELB that looks like one, right? So it's not one actually. So it can be multiple nodes they will be having, because this is fully managed. We don't have internals, how they are maintaining it. However, it is fault tolerant. Fault tolerant. So fault tolerant is something more than highly available, right? Fault tolerance and high availability, right? Two terms are there, correct? So you understand the difference? Fault tolerant and highly available. High available means
Without restriction.
High available means if this ELB is down, right? If this ELB is down, so still no, it will be say like available. But another some ELB or something will take care of it. However, there may be performance may not be like earlier. So you have say like two ELB. Now This is also taking some because this is also taking and distributing. Say, like for example, I'm just hypothetical situation I'm telling. Now one is completely gone. Still one is there, right? If one is there, then your services are available. So this we can say highly available. This we can say highly available. However, you can see because one component has gone. So do you think it will be having same performance?
No, performance will be down.
Performance will be 50%. One is gone, right?
Yeah.
So here that is the difference. So here I said fault tolerant. So fault tolerant means no performance degradation. No performance degradation. So this is highly available plus no performance degradation. I can say degradation. So no performance degradation. So that is fault tolerant. So this is fault tolerant, right? And scalable already discussed, and self-healing and all those benefits it is having, right? Okay, so now that we have discussed this, so what happens in another one? Apart from that, apart from this classic ELB, what we discussed? Application ELB, right?
Application ELB. Yeah.
Yeah. So with as the name suggests, you can understand, right? It should be a little bit beneficial for application, right? So here also what we do, how we created, right? So exactly similarly, we can do that ALB, right? Again, we define the listener, right? On port 80 or port 43. And then we have the ALB. What we do here, we create, instead of directly registering, so we create here something called target group. Okay, so now we have EC2. Okay, now here you can define some rule. Getting it? You can create some rule that some particular, say like URI you heard, right? URI, you were discussing S3 URI, some path we were saying.
Yeah.
So here we can do some content filtering. We can define some rule for content filtering. Okay. What will happen? What kind of filtering? Based on some URIs. If request is related to some particular URI, or say like request is coming from some particular host name, maybe. Request is coming from a particular URI, or request is coming from a particular host name, right? Route the request to a particular target. Say like if some particular rule is matching, this rule is matching, then it will come here. If some other rule is matching, it will come here. Understanding?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a feature, right, which may be useful for application, right? So that's why the name is application LB, ALB, right? So what happens, you can define, you can do content filtering here, you can put some rule, regulation, right? And another benefit is it can do fixed port mapping. So what happens, there we didn't have that, that one. So I just, how we did that classic LB. Wait 1 second. Let me okay. Let me use this space a little bit. Classic LB. Oh, what? Classic LB and application LB. Okay. So there is port mapping, right? So say like this ALB, whatever port you have defined here, you remember we were doing some port forward, we were mentioning here. We defined some port here. We also defined some port here, correct? When we register, we defined some port. So there, say like, you remember I mentioned, say like 8080, some port we mentioned.
Yeah.
So application would be listening on one particular port in case of classic LB. Okay, that port was fixed actually. Here, this application LB is works in such a way that here you have that fixed port is concept is not there. So you have, say like, what I can write, fixed port mapping. Here I can say dynamic port mapping. So here you don't have to fix the port, right? It can be dynamic. Okay. Now this one particular EC2, right? Something is coming here. It has like some 4 ports. It's listening on 4 different types of ports, not on one port or something. It's listening on 4 ports, right? You can have 4 applications running here, listening on different ports, right? And those requests can come through that particular port. So now you have one request coming to this port, some request coming to this port, like that. Okay. I have one more. So what I mean to say is, you can run multiple different type of application, right, on different ports. Okay, what is the benefit? Or you can have multiple processes also, say like multiple applications on different ports, or one application having multiple processes, each process listening on different port. And if they are listening on different port, they will be receiving requests on those different ports. Making sense?
Yeah.
Now what? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? Tell me the benefit. Anybody? As compared to classic LB here, right? They created another concept called application load balancer, right? There must be some benefit.
Multiple applications are handled at a time, multitasking or something.
No, but that is like applications are being handled by the EC2 instance. But what is the benefit of having dynamic port mapping, I'm asking. Any intelligent guess? See, if there is like one ticket counter and somebody is coming and purchasing ticket, right? One person is coming and another person also coming, another person also coming. There is a queue. Now there are multiple ticket counters, right? And now whatever load was there, so now everywhere one person came, one request came, right? So there is no queue, right? And different ports are there. So this particular machine is very much capable of handling the requests. Now, if the requests are coming on different ports, obviously the utilization of this EC2 instance will be more. Right or wrong?
Okay.
The utilization will increase. So that is the benefit. Making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Utilization of the underlying instance will be more. So that is the benefit. Okay, so now you have network LB. Okay, so till this all how we have that application LV thing. So now here you just created so here this will become so NLB, network LB, right? So we can create network load balancer also, how we created application load balancer. So just here also define listener on port 80 or 443, right? You have NLB and you have target group, and here you just define forward port. For example, 8080. Now, what is the difference here is we can use static IP.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we are using static IP, it's good for long running connections. It's optimized in that way because the name is network, right? So network is properly taken care of. There may be a need where you have a connection you want to establish and keep it for maybe a week. Connection should not break, right? Or maybe connection may be there for a month, right?